Welcome, everybody, to the first ever edition of Club and Country After the Whistle. This is the reaction show for U.S. national team games. We'll be here for every game throughout the Gold Cup. The moment they step off the field, we come in here and we start talking, and we want you to start talking too. 401-206-0MLS. That's the phone number. Get on the Hot Take Hotline. You could be a part of the show. Your questions, your hot takes, whatever else, just give us a call or hashtag Gold Cup 2017. I'm David Goss, and we are going to be joined by illustrious guests all week and all tournament. This time, all-time winningest coach in MLS history, Ziggy Schmidt, former MLS player Bobby Warshaw, and this guy that I pulled out of a garbage can next to two cats, Mr. Matt Doyle, who's going to break it down from top to bottom. They were good kitties. We're going to have guests all tournament, so make sure to stick here after every single game on MLSsoccer.com and on Facebook after every U.S. national team game. But not just that, we know Alfonzo Davies is a stud. We're going to talk Canada later this show as well. Guys, let's get into it. U.S. 1-1 against Panama to open up the tournament. Maybe not the result everyone expected. Ziggy, general thoughts?
It was a really patchy game. You know, there were periods of time where basically the U.S. had the better part of the game. Then there was periods of time where Panama was better. I don't think we put in a really solid performance from 0 to 90. We were in and out. You know, some guys helped themselves a little bit. Obviously, Dwyer, 2 goals in 2 games. You know, that doesn't hurt you. Kellen Rowe had some good moments. But overall, I think it's got to be considered a little bit of a disappointment that we didn't come away with more.
The things that we worried about, I think, going into this game, stuff like, will the back line stay organized without Jeff Cameron? Solid no. Solid no on that one. Can Dax McCarty and Kalin Acosta work together to sort of control tempo against a better team in a game that matters? Solid no on that one as well. Do we have enough speed on the wings to stretch the field? Another solid no. So I don't want to be too down about it.
Well, you're already there.
You're sounding pretty negative, by the way.
But, like, it is just one game, and it was a little bit disorganized, and Bruce has shown the ability to adjust. And look, you learned a little something about guys who maybe can't do the job as well in terms of Joe Corona. So
Bobby, sorry, from an energy point of view. I mean, they looked energetic against Ghana. Last night, Honduras and Costa Rica and Canada looked energetic. What did you see from the U.S.?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the most disappointing part for Bruce, that nobody stepped up today. I think he wanted to see what guy was going to take the game by the reins, and nobody did it. And I think for a tournament that doesn't necessarily matter for today or for next week or for this year, when he's thinking about the broader picture, I think he'll be really disappointed that nobody just stepped up in the moment.
And I think that's what Dax McCarty was trying to do a lot in the second half. And Stu and Landon did a nice job of pointing out that maybe in trying to do that, he overcomplicated his game a little too much, and he ended up making a couple of pretty uncharacteristic turnovers.
He might have overcomplicated it for sure, but he also made one big-time saving tackle, you know, tracking back in the box, which if you're going to be the defensive midfielder of the 6, that's an important quality to have. But overall, you know, this is what you want to see as a coach. As a coach going into these games now, you want to see who can step up. So Ghana was a friendly. This is now a tournament, so it changes. So who steps up, who can deal with the pressure, who can step up a moment.
On that note, I talked about how no player really stepped up to the moment. The problem is, as a coach, you don't want to see a player do too much. So I acknowledge that it's a fine line. Players need to step up. They need to push the tempo, but they also need to play within themselves.
You guys, let's hang on one sec, because we've got the Hot Take Hotline, 401-206-0MLS. We've got our first phone call.
What's up, guys? This is Todd from Tec Hotline. Is it just me, or is Joe Benny Corona extremely overrated?
Oh, wow. That's a hot way to come into this show. It's a hot start.
He was good against Ghana, and he's been good for Tijuana for a couple of years. But if you have him in that 4-2-3-1 as the number 10, he has to control the game, and he has to be dangerous. And he's not that guy. He's a guy who you could play in that spot if you have 2 really sort of driving forward wingers who can do a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of creativity. And I don't see that out of Bedoya, especially on the wing.
You know who he feels like? Torres. I love that
Longo?
reference.
I think he's better than Torres.
But when
I think
Corona
so.
plays in the middle, I think he plays too deep.
Yeah.
He's too far away from Dom Dwyer. He's disconnected. I would rather have seen Rowe in the middle and Corona maybe on the wing.
I'd rather
on
have
the
seen
wing
Areola on the wing.
At the wing, you're forced into being pushed up a little higher.
Yeah.
But when he's part of that three-man midfield in there, he's comfortable coming deeper, and then there's too much of a gap and too much of a disconnection.
So last game it was similar, and Dom Dwyer, though, was still able to get a goal. He got another one again today. 2 goals in 2 games. That's got to be one of the bright spots of what's happening with this U.S. team right now.
Yes, goals are nice.
Goals are good.
Yeah,
Especially for Dwyer, who we didn't really know could score at this level. We knew he could do a lot of things, but scoring at this level was not one of them.
It was such an instinctive run. Like, he knew what he was doing. He set up the Panamanian defender really well, got to the right spot, and of course, props to Kalin Rowe for the juggle and cross.
And you guys love that Villafana goes quick with the throw-in, and then Rowe, another bright spot probably from this game.
I mean, I thought Rowe was the best two-way player on the field because, look, Tom Dwyer did hard work. He always does. He's so brave. He got the goal. His touch was not great holding the ball up. He wasn't able to release guys into space. And the U.S. kind of missed that. And I thought in the second half when Juan Agudelo came in and played sort of a floating false nine, if you want to call him that, he was able to do a little bit more in terms of putting his foot on the ball and getting other guys into the game. So, I mean, those are the 3 guys who I think helped themselves the most, was Rowe, Agudelo, and Dwyer.
But let's be honest, Dwyer really was out of the game for major patches of the game.
That's a striker. That's okay
but it's
for
a striker.
a striker.
Exactly. And the quality that he had was, I think he had 2 chances in the game, one that got blocked, and then he had the second chance, and you score. If you score 1 out of 2 as a striker, that's not bad, and that is your job. And there's going to be times where you're not going to see the game enough, you're not going to see the ball, and you're going to be out of there. But
Sidney LaRue agrees, by the way.
yeah,
I would hope
she agrees.
If you had a Dwyer in your last name, you'd be sitting there saying he was the best player on the field.
He was, and he was definitely the best Sporting Kansas City player on the field. I was super disappointed in Matt Beasler. I thought he was very slow to make some reads, and was one of the big reasons that the defense didn't stay connected to the central midfield.
What Dwyer's giving this team, is it something different? And you look at John Townsend's tweet here, he's talking about hold-up play, work rate, his run selection. Is it different from what the other forwards give? Big picture with Josie
more
and
physical.
Bobby?
He's more physical. Josie's a big guy, and Josie can be physical, but Josie sometimes doesn't play physical. Dom plays physical all the time. He loves the battle. He loves the contact. That's part of what he thrives on in the game. So he's different than the other guys. I don't know if I agree that his hold-up play today was good, and I think it was difficult for him, as I said, because he didn't have anybody underneath that he could connect to, and so that makes it hard when you're up there by yourself. But he persevered. He stayed in the game. He stayed focused. And for that, I give him all the kudos.
You guys, I worry when it comes to Dwyer, any striker, if we're overthinking it. If history has taught us anything with World Cup selections, it's that form matters. The Edson Buttle, the Hercules Gomez, that at some point how good they are of a player doesn't matter as much as
that really
have
help
they scored
that
lately.
US team? I mean, were Gomez and Buttle difference makers in 2010?
Well, Buttle hardly played, if I remember
Right,
right.
it's a team that made the second
Gomez
round.
got a
And
start.
Gomez had an assist against
Was it Slovenia?
No, it wasn't Slovenia. It was the last game of the group stage. Why am I blanking?
No, he didn't against Algeria?
That was
Algeria.
incorrectly ruled out.
Yes, that is very
He
true.
caught you, dude.
Lightning strikes twice.
Herc was very
got you.
very good in that game, but like I'll push back on that. Brian McBride has something like 1 goal in his last 22 games before the 2002
okay.
World Cup.
Okay.
You're very young. You don't remember these things, Bobby. Come on. But I get what you're saying, and I think that does factor in. Of course it factors in, and I think more now than ever before because Bruce has a lot of depth to work with.
No, he's got some depth to work with, but I also agree with Bobby in the sense that strikers are streaky, and so going into a World and now still too far away from the World Cup. But if you go into the World Cup in 2018 and somebody is having a really good April and May, you maybe got to think about this is maybe my guy because he's on a good run. He feels confident. Confidence is a big part of being a good striker.
Just looking at this tournament, it's not a great performance. They have to get better. Kalin Acosta has a feeling about it.
Oh, wow.
Crap performance has to be better. Thanks for the support,
Siggy, as
as
a coach,
always.
what do you think of a player? I mean, That's right after. I don't like seeing this. This concerns me. I mean, you want to see players be candid, but I don't
social
love that
media.
tweet.
It's social media, and it's a new life. I mean, I wouldn't mind it if a player came to me and said, "Hey, Coach, I'm sorry, that was crap today. We didn't play well."
Yeah.
You know, I understand that, but to me, I'd rather see it stay in the locker room. You know, to go out there and say it publicly, I don't know if I'm 100% behind it. I'm not against it, you know, per se. But, you know, to me, it's like, son, don't talk about it. Let's just get it done.
You know what it is as a player? It's like if you acknowledge it, it makes me feel better. I know I played poorly, but if I say it, it almost like it lets me off the hook a little bit, which is why players do this sometimes.
So,
but he's still a young player.
So Kalin and Dax, that combination, they were good against Ghana, but Charlie Boehm saying yikes today. You mentioned the things that we were worried about that didn't go well. That was on the top of your list, Doyle?
Yeah, they weren't able to work together to sort of to pull Panama apart. And credit in part goes to Godoy and Gomez, who are, you know, very good players, very experienced players. They've given the U.S. trouble literally for an entire decade, those two guys. So I guess it shouldn't be too surprising, but there was a little bit of like just disconnect between Acosta and McCarty. They didn't seem to work together in the way that they had it against Ghana. And granted, it's a friendly versus a game that matters, so it's always going to be a little bit different. But that was a big disappointment to me.
You know, the only thing I can think of to explain that is in the first time playing together, really the first time in a team, the coach often says, just go, do your best, I trust you. The second time, after a good performance, he adds a little more. He says, okay, let's build on it. So in my head, the only thing that could explain the backward trend in this game is that Bruce asked them to do a little more. They overthought it, and it was just a task they couldn't figure out today.
Sometimes it might not be Bruce asking them to do a little more, but you play your first game together, and now your second game, you're saying, hey, that went pretty well. I think we can do a little more. And all of a sudden now you're trying to do too much. And sometimes doing less is doing more.
Exactly right.
And so players, that's your concept of playing within yourself. I think that's important. So I think certain players need to play within themselves, but then also the other part of it for me, the U.S. team, certain players have to play outside their comfort zone, take people on, be dynamic, get behind people on the flanks, create separation, and that was something we didn't see on the flanks at all.
I thought Agudelo did decent with that when he came in, even though he was playing out of possession, and that goes back to the starting 11. I don't think Bruce picked the right starting 11. I really thought Areola should have been in there. And if you look back at that Ghana game, it was his ability to sort of pin the right side of the Ghanaian defense back and even getting behind them that opened up so many passing lanes underneath, pulled guys out, so that Dax and Acosta were able to play right into Corona's feet in that game.
We're going to send you guys to the board to talk about what you do in the next game. But with what Bruce did this game, we have a call about his coaching decisions. 401-206-0MLS is the number. Let's go to this call.
This is for Siggy. Andrew Wiebe here. What does Bruce Arena take from this game? What is the message he delivers to his players? 1-1 against Panama, the hardest game in the group. It's a result, but probably not the one he was expecting. Have a good show, guys.
No, thanks, Andrew.
Thanks for calling.
Hey, well done. You know, I'm going to push back a little bit on Doyle here. You know, we don't know what the situation was with Areola. Bruce is a guy who keeps injuries very close to the vest. So maybe Areola got a knock. Maybe there was something going on. Maybe that's the reason he didn't play. But certainly, you know, Bruce now is going to come into his team and say, hey, it's okay. We got a point. We've got these other two games in the group. We just need to get our results there. We can still push on as the group winner. You know, we need to score some goals in these games. Nothing's lost at this stage. But we need to play better, guys. You know, I think they know it. And he knows it, but nothing was lost today. You know, nothing was lost in the sense of being able to still finish first in your group. Everything's still there, and that's the message he's going to pass on to his team.
Did Kelyn Rowe get himself? I mean, it's just one game, but is he right now the guy from this group that looks like he could be going into World Cup qualifying, potentially Russia?
I mean, he did today, and I thought he did against Ghana as well. And it's because he has the, you know, to paraphrase what Bruce once said about Clint Dempsey, he tries stuff.
Was that the exact word?
Yeah, that was the exact word.
I think you've won MLS Cup, so you can say whatever you want.
Can we work blue on Facebook and YouTube? But I mean, look at the assist that he had today and his ability to beat guys off the dribble coming inside. We saw that a couple times in the first half.
You were giving the system a hard time. I think the system fits a guy like Kalin Rowe perfectly. I don't understand why they were so spread out. I think if they had just come tighter into the midfield, let the outside backs do the width, it would have worked great. So the reason I think Kalin Rowe looked so good today is the fact that he was the only one who did that, the only one that came central, asked for the ball, and demanded possession at his feet.
But you can't push the fullbacks up when it's Zuzi and Villafaña. I mean, Graham Zuzi made Miguel Camargo look like freaking Eden Hazard today.
He's a converted winger. Who's going to play that?
Eric Lehigh.
Filofana can push up, and he can deal with it. There, Zuzi, if he gets pushed up too high, all of a sudden it's going to be even worse defensively, and so that's a concern. The thing that I like about Rowe, though, is Rowe doesn't have speed where he's going to create major separation, but he has that ability to create space for himself, and he knows once he's created that space, like on the assist on the goal, now I need to get the ball in. I need to play the ball, and that recognition is a big plus. So he is a player, even though he doesn't have that pace or that major dribbling ability, he can create space and he can get balls over, and so that's why he's a viable option on the wing. I'd still, though, like to see him inside.
Bobby would like to have seen 3 or 4 more central midfielders on the field, because if you play 10 of them, maybe Bruce Arena's comment where he said that the Panama-controlled central midfield wouldn't be as bad.
The reason Kalin looked good is that this system fits the way he likes to play. He can't be a winger because he doesn't have the pace. He can't explode by players. He likes to come and float into those zones. So there's a very specific reason why Kalin Rowe is the guy that looks so good today, because this system, playing him wide, asking all those guys to tuck in, fits his style.
Let's send you two to our special magic board to look at what system you'd play for next game. And while they're floating through our invisible tunnels and heading on their way to our touchscreen, we've got a lot more, we're hoping, shows coming up. We're going to be here after every single U.S. national team game. The next one is Wednesday night, July 12th, the U.S. game at 9 p.m. against Martinique in Tampa, FS1, Unimas, and TSN2. And then we are live here immediately after that game. It's 401-206. 0MLS to hear your phone calls or your hot takes on this show. Also, hashtag Gold Cup 2017 as well for you. And then Canada, Tuesday, July 11th, they play Costa Rica, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time on FS1, Unimas, and TSN up in Canada. Those two teams both sitting on 3 points in that group. We're going to talk about them in just a moment. But Ziggy and Doyle, I think, have safely descended through our special transportation vehicle, and they're on the touchboard.
There they are.
Guys, we're back in the Bears' lair now. We're in front of the board. This is what the lineup was against Panama today. Yeah, and then we're going to make a couple of adjustments going into the next couple of games. One of the big ones I want to see, this guy right here, Matt Hedges in for Matt Beasler. One of the things that I mentioned, the U.S. struggles to stay organized in central defense when Jeff Cameron's not out there. I think everybody recognizes that Hedges is the best and most vocal defender, organizer of any central defender in MLS.
Of the 3 that we have right now.
Of the 3 that we have right now. So I want to see that change. The other change I want to see, Eric Lehigh in for Graham Zuzi. Zuzi struggled today, and we saw it time and time. Every time that Panama came at him, he was dropping deeper and deeper and deeper, just invited them forward. Those are 2 big ones, and the other one is, of course, Paul Arriola coming in. I think for for Joe Corona, and then we move Kalin Rowe inside and Arriola outside to stretch things out a little bit.
I think we can expect a lot of changes. I think we're going to see almost a whole new team when they play Martinique. Guys, I would like to see in, though, I'd like to see Morrow come in for Filofano at left back. I don't know if we have his number up there.
Yeah, I don't think we have him down there.
Okay, but the key for Morrow, though, is he's at an age where he's either got to show he can do it in this tournament or not. And so you got to give him that opportunity and allow him to show. I'm going to show a little bit of my Seattle bias here. I'd like to see Morris for Dwyer, and I think that's going to happen because he's got to look at all 3 forwards. You know, Morris, even at the end of the game where he's just in for that little bit, the cross he hits on the left-hand side, although he overhits the cross, he creates separation. You know, and that's something we didn't see very much at all. And then the other one is you got to give Roldan a go. And does he come for Acosta into the midfield? Again, you got to see, can he do it? Can he not do it? I think we'll see more changes than that because there's a situation of Martinique
yeah.
is a game where he's got to now put his players in there. He's got to see what they can do, or else you run out of group stage games. By the time you go beyond group stage, then I think you'll see a steady line.
One of the things I've been thinking about a little bit, and we saw it for a couple minutes, going to some form of a 4-4-2. We saw that for a couple minutes when Juan Agudelo came on today, playing without kind of a true number 10. We know Rowe can create from that spot. We know that Paul Arriola can get behind the defense and do some work coming inside from the left. We've seen him do that. I would like to see how these two guys work together.
Which you can, and you might even see the team with Morrow able to play so offensive on the left-hand side. You might even see them go into whatever you want to call it, a 3-4-1-2, that kind of a shape as well. So those are possibilities. Rowe can run this one side, maybe Arriola comes in, maybe Arriola runs the whole side, and Rowe goes inside, and Agudelo plays up top with Morris. So there's different ways that he can go about it, but for sure, the one thing I can assure you of, we're going to see different players when they play Martinique.
How much will you be able to learn from games against teams that are, frankly, not that great?
You're not going to learn as much as you will in a game like today, but on the same token, you've got a game now. It's in a tournament, and you want to see, okay, who steps up to their opportunity. And so if they step up to the opportunity against Martinique, then you're going to give them another opportunity as the tournament moves forward. If they don't step up against Martinique, they won't do it.
All right. I think we're about to take a call from the Hot Take Hotline. Is that what I'm hearing right now? It's 401-206-0MLS. Call. Give us a shout.
Go ahead.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Emery from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I was just wondering, what do you think about Bill Hamid and Chris Pontius starting? Thank you.
I think that we'll probably see either Hamid or Sean Johnson get the next game. I don't really care which. I just want to see.
I think one will get the next game, the other one will get the other.
And from how Brad Guzan played today, I think he's still the clear number 2 in the pool. Chris Pontius, if he had the same speed he had when he was 25, I think would be ideal for this team, because we're talking about wingers who create penetration and score some goals. And that's what Pontius has generally done. I don't know if he has that kind of separation anymore.
Obviously I think he's going to get a chance in this tournament. He got called in. Does Zardes get a chance ahead of him because he's more of a two-way guy? Pontius, though, has the ability to be a goal scorer from the wing, which is also something that you really didn't see. Bedoya is not going to be a goal scorer from the wing, but I think he definitely has an opportunity.
And that gets back to another thing with Bedoya. I actually want to see a little bit of him in this spot as the number 8, the role that Kalin Acosta played today. I think Bedoya is a much more natural fit there than he is on the wing.
Quite possibly.
Yeah, we'll find out. We're going to kick it back out to the studio for David and Bobby and some love for our friends from the north.
Yeah, they can teleport their way back in here, and let's talk Canada. Their next game coming up on Tuesday, July 11th against Costa Rica, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That one's on TSN up in Canada, as well as FS1 and Unimas down here. And it's a big game. 2 teams that won their first game going up against each other. And Bobby, the only reason we're talking about Canada in that spot is they've scored their first goal in the Gold Cup since 2011, and it was a 16-year-old, Alfonso Davies, with 2. What were you doing when you were 16 years old?
I like talking about Alfonso Davies because he's so good at soccer, but part of me really dislikes it for that exact question. I mean, gosh, what were we doing? It wasn't this. I can tell you that. I think it was watching Harry Potter movies. Really. I'm telling you the truth.
Here's a great fact. Here's a great fact for you as we watch Alfonso Davies' goal. First goal scorer in a full international tournament from the years 2000s in the world.
It's a good fun fact.
Alfonso Davies, so calm here, Bobby. He's in full field. A lot of players panic. 16 years old for his national team, getting his first start, and he has, no qualms.
I love that. In his book, Dennis Bergkamp talks about being in those positions, holding your nerve, just looking the goalie in the eye and showing the confidence. And 16 years old, Alfonso Davies is already doing it.
Patrice Bernier was pretty impressed. That guy's been around for a year or 2.
just a year or 2.
Yeah.
They fell apart when he came off the field.
So you look at Canada, and you look at this team. They were up 3-0. You just said it. Gave up 2 goals immediately when he went off, as well as a goalkeeping change because of injury. Then they are able to get a 4-2 win. This Canada team, we want to know, can they get out of their group? Zambrano's only been there for 4 months. What do you see?
I mean, they have more talent than I think people realize, and I think Davies showed it. He's a difference maker on a level that there aren't a lot of 16-year-olds like him.
Makes
in the
us
entire
jealous
world.
as Americans.
Yeah, he does.
Makes us a little angry.
I want to see Canada get into a shooting war with Costa Rica and Honduras. I want to see them go out and try to win a game 4-3. You know, because I think they have a better chance at that than they do of pitching a shutout.
Well, it was interesting, you know, for them to score 4 goals was important. It's better to win 4-2 than 2-0, because when you look at the tiebreakers to get into the next, and I still think they're going to be the third-place team. I might be wrong, but for them to advance goals scored are important. But what were you doing at 16?
I can't even tell you.
Were you scoring goals for your country?
I was scoring goals for my high school.
Mechanicsburg,
there were some
PA,
bangers
stand
for
up.
Mechanicsburg High School.
Contending in Gold Cup, potentially. This Canada squad, it's exciting. There's no Kyle Larin, but if you can get out of the group stage for every team, you can bring in 6 new players. This Canada team,
Look at that.
how different could they be? I mean, could they have been much better without Larin?
I don't know that Larin is going to get.
That's the
Why do you
analysis
gotta
we
go
pay
there?
for.
Doyle, why do you have to go there? You're going to be making Landon Donovan jokes next.
I give the people what they want. I don't know if Larin's going to get the call-in.
Oh, yeah.
Cavallini's been good. Anthony Jackson-Hamel has more than earned his call-up as well.
If they get to the next round, I think they got to bring Larin in. He's an important piece of the puzzle as you move forward. If I'm the coach, I'm Octavio Zambrano. I got to get him in with my group, even if I'm not starting him. Even if I decide Cavallini's still my guy.
Doyle's crazy.
Yeah. So you have to get him. You got to make him part of the group. You're looking at qualifying for 2022. You're looking at getting to another Gold Cup, and he's going to be an important part of that puzzle, without a doubt.
I feel like Canada is the team that CONCACAF is embracing right now.
Yeah.
I feel like they're going to
Everyone
fully.
loves an
I
underdog.
hope,
They
I
got
hope
the
they don't.
president of CONCACAF.
Exactly. I hope they don't get too
embracing it.
tactical or too. I hope they just stay wide open and ball out.
Well, they're embraceable because they don't have a very good defense.
Exactly.
Everybody
Although
likes
Yakovic is good. He's a guy MLS players talk about how good he is, and he's never gotten his credit.
But his pace, though, right now, his pace isn't there anymore.
It's true.
I think, and Vittoria doesn't have a lot of pace.
true.
Zambrano, Octavio Zambrano, he took over 4 months ago. What can you tell us about what you expect from him?
It's tough as a national team coach because you really don't have your team together, you know, for that long a period of time. So this is the first time that he's going to have his team together for 2-3 weeks. And so now he's going to be able to imprint his style and imprint onto the team how he wants to see them play, how he wants to see them move forward, how he wants the ball to move offensively, how he wants to see them defend. So this is an important period for Octavio. And, you know, he's had success at different places that he's coached. He's coached everywhere, you know, Hungary, Moldova, places that you don't want to even go visit, I think.
Yeah, right.
Hey, I would visit anywhere.
Moldova, but
What's the first thing you work on? We don't talk about this often enough. We talk about tactics with the national team without remembering how hard it is to implement it in such a short amount of time. If you were their coach, what's the first thing you focus on?
See, I'm different than a lot of coaches. There's a lot of coaches who say, first I'm going to work on defense, then on the attack. I'm going to work on my midfield organization. For me, the first thing I want to do is I want to see the guys play. I want to see my team play. I want to see what we do naturally. And then, hey, we have some weaknesses here. Let's start working on that. So I'm basing it upon what I saw from Canada last night. Organization in the back is definitely something you need to work on because taking 2 goals was not a good thing. How are they going to make up for that lack of speed in the middle of the back becomes a big thing. And when you take Bernier out, who's going to organize the middle of midfield? Who's going to give them that direction? Because he's not going to be able to play 90 minutes, game in and game out.
Shut your mouth. Patrice Bernier will be still playing in 2032.
Bruce Arena only had a month or 2 more than Octavio Zambrano to get ready for this one.
But he had an entire January camp.
Well, Ariel Castillo, our reporter out there, you can follow her on MLSsoccer.com, of course. Bruce Arena, I think we were a poorly coached team.
What a guy. I love
Well, he's doing what the players do,
What a
right? If
guy.
he calls himself out, then he can feel better.
If
about
only
it.
Bruce had tweeted it.
That's
really what we're missing.
But the thing is, you know, players win, coaches lose. So, you know,
I'm glad
today
you learned
wasn't.
that. I'm glad
I learned that
coaches
early on. I learned that early on.
I agree with that.
And so, as a coach, you know, the first guy you're going to look at is yourself, and that's what Bruce is looking at as well.
Alexi Lawless says Nashville deserved better today. They were the host. Nashville SC coming to USL next year. Let's go to the Hot Take Hotline about Nashville as well.
Hi, after the whistle. This is Charlie. First time, long time. I just wanted to say that the crowd in Nashville today. Wow, I didn't know that they were such a a big soccer town, and it's great to see the game growing across the country. And I'm just really excited to see the Gold Cup move forward and go U.S. men's national team. Dom Dwyer, great game.
I think that was actually
our friend Charlie has maybe.
I think that's a prank call from Devin Pluler, actually, on that one.
Charlie had a good time, huh?
Charlie, woo!
We see Charlie. We saw FC Cincinnati in U.S. Open Cup. You see Nashville in a game like this.
Yeah.
The U.S. national team bringing the sport. Now they're going to Tampa for the next game. You'd like to see another big crowd, another good crowd.
I will be disappointed if there's not a big crowd. I mean, given that Tampa is as much in the running for a MLS expansion team as the likes of Cincinnati or Nashville, and when crowds show out, when fans show up, I think the league notices. So
the sport's growing. The sport's growing, and we need to not just have that growth in MLS cities. That growth needs to take place in other cities as well. We got to drive viewership. We got to drive the interest. We got to drive all aspects of the sport still. But certainly Nashville's a good place. Great place to visit. Great music.
Totally
great blues.
Great music.
Ziggy
Great
Schmidt
blues
has
music.
your blues club if you end up going to Nashville. He can't remember the name, but he knows how to get there.
Can't remember the name,
Ziggy
but I
Schmidt
went to
for
the same
Nashville
one
United.
twice.
We've got more games coming up tomorrow. The Gold Cup rolls on Sunday. Mexico playing the second game. Jamaica, a host of MLS players. And Curacao, I think one of the most interesting teams in the tournament. A couple Premier League players on that one. They get into this Gold Cup action. And then Tuesday, we're back with Canada playing in the second round, or the second game against Costa Rica. That one, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then Wednesday, we will be back, but first the U.S. will be back. 9 p.m. Eastern time. FS1, Unimas, and TSN2. That one down in Tampa. And then while you're watching that game, while you're watching Canada, when you're at work on Monday morning, eating dinner on Sunday night, call 401-206-0MLS. Give us a call. Let us know what you think. Ask these guys some questions. I'm going to let Doyle go back to the garbage can that he was hanging out in before this one. Keep tweeting at us. And you can follow all the Gold Cup on MLSsoccer.com. And you can follow all the U.S. national team games with Club and Country after the whistle. So long, guys.